Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us for our fourth webinar of 2026. I'm Charlie Oakley. I'm an AICP certified planner with 23 years of land development experience across the Triangle and Greater Southeast. I'm the principal and founder of Yoakley Entitlement Services and the co-founder and president of NodeS. I'm going to make one argument today and spend the rest of the time proving it. The argument is this. The risk that kills land deals moves faster than the calendar you underwrite on, and is sitting in the public record where you can see it weeks early and almost nobody is reading it. By the end, I want you to know what that record can tell you, who at the table needs to hear it, and why catching it is a job, not a subscription. Here's the shape of almost why every bad land outcome I've watched in the last 23 years. It is rarely that a deal goes wrong on day one. It is a deal that was right on day one, and the ground moved, and nobody on the team was watching the ground. The category that was approving last year suddenly gets burdened with neighborhood opposition and pro forma wrecking costs. A code gets amended in a way that reopens a site plan you thought was finished. A comparable project 2 towns over picks up a condition that becomes the new going rate, and your pro forma never priced it. None of that shows up in a title search. None of it shows up in a zoning verification letter, because a verification letter tells you what the code says the day it's pulled and nothing about the amendment filed the Tuesday after. So the team finds out the way teams always find out, at a hearing or at a meeting with staff. After money is committed, after engineering is spent, and when the only moves left are yes or no. And the deal loses months while the team adjusts to the new reality. It happens the other way too. A yes client is watching a Triangle County's UDO update process for impact and timing. Sorry. By following the regular updates from NodeS, they've been able to plan out design, density, and proposed schedule with sellers based on the ongoing and monitored conversations. The opposite of finding out late is being the first in line.
So the question I want to organize the next 40-ish minutes around is not how do you find a better deal? The question is narrower and more useful than that. It is how do you stop being surprised? Because the surprise is the expensive part. The continuance, the code change, the cluster of denials with condition stacks, all of it is visible in the record before it reaches your deal. The problem was never that the information did not exist. The problem is that the reading it is slow, is scattered across hundreds of separate boards, and is buried in a 200-page agenda packet that no human on your time has the hours to read every 2 weeks. That is the gap, not a data gap, a reading gap. Let me show you what is sitting in that record and where it comes from. Everything I'm about to show you comes from one place, the public meeting record. Councils, planning boards, zoning commissions, committees, boards of adjustment. It's all public. It is all technically available. And in practice, it is all unread because the cost of reading it in an honest way, every board in your markets, every cycle, in full, is more hours than any development shop will ever spend on it. So we still do what we always have. We make a few phone calls, listen or watch a meeting that someone said you should, and inform a strategy based on what you already know. There's nothing wrong with this method, but we may be satisficing in an era where that's no longer necessary. That reading is the entire reason that NoDS exists. NoDS is a municipal intelligence platform built on the structured reading of more than 240 municipalities and growing. It reads every council, planning board, and zoning meeting on a cadence and classifies what happened, surfaces the items that match the terms, the projects, and the applicants you care about. It is the engine behind every finding in this talk, and that is the radar. Yoakley Entitlement Services is the other half. Yes is an entitlement consulting practice. When the radar catches something that needs judgment, say navigating a rezoning, pricing some strategy, or deciding whether and how to file, that is the work, and that is a person. Hold that line for the whole talk. NoDS catches the signal and hands you the file. Yes is what you do about it. Now, I'm going to spend some time, the bulk of this time, on the proof. I pulled one ordinary monitoring window, about 90 days, and results from roughly 20 municipalities, around 60 real agenda items. And I'm going to walk you through the 4 kinds of signals hiding in that ordinary stack. 4 kinds of risk that single event due diligence cannot see because single event due diligence reads the record once on a deadline for one parcel. And I want to be honest about what makes this worth paying for, because some of what I show for some of what I show you, you could find this yourself with extra hours in a day. The difference is never that a vote happened. Votes are public. You can search a vote. The difference is the reasoning underneath the vote, read across many boards at once on a schedule. Watch that distinction in every example. The vote is the search result. The reasoning and structured outcome is the only thing that this kind of reading gives you. So here are the 4 signals: pipeline, code changes, category intelligence, and condition stacks. Pipeline is the deal that has not been decided yet, hiding in the continuances and discussion items. Code changes are the rules moving under projects nobody has filed. Category intelligence is a class of use cooling or warming across several jurisdictions at once, visible in why boards are saying no, not just that they are. Condition stacks are the price attached to a yes, the part of an approval that never shows up as a vote. I will walk all 4 on real briefs from recent cycles, including one that moved last week. And as I go, keep a running tally of 2 things. First, which of these could you have found on your own, and which could you not? Second, who on your team could have caught it? By the end, those 4 signals are going to resolve into 4 jobs and then 1 role. The first signal hides in terms that aren't approvals or denials, continuances, recommendations, frameworks. The non-event. Everything I'm about to read is on the slide, so you can see the source as I go. Start with Pasco County, Florida. Caliente Resorts, a master plan development, a substantial modification with the 96 condominium increment in it. And it came up, it came up at the April 21st Planning Commission. It was continued. Again, no vote, no press release. It will not appear in a single verification letter anywhere because nothing was decided. On paper, nothing happened. But here's what the record actually tells you, and this is the part you cannot get from just a search. Caliente has been continued more than once. A single continuance might be noise. The pattern of them is a tell. In the reading, you can see it almost always means conditions are being negotiated off the public mic between staff and the applicant. So the continuance is not the absence of news. It is a 60 to 90-day countdown telling you a decision is coming and roughly when before the applicant's competitors know where to look. You could find the agenda item yourself. You could not find what the pattern of continuances means without reading the whole thread. Wake County and Economic Development Incentive Policy recommended, not adopted. The wage thresholds and the qualifying formula are still moving. That is the slow pipeline, the 6 to 12 month one, where the framework that lands here becomes the rule everybody files under next year. In Harnett County, where the board adopted a conditional zoning text amendment that lets it negotiate buffers, road improvements, and traffic mitigation on a case-by-case basis. Staff put it on the record as a response to Senate Bill 382, the 2024 state law that limited local ability to downzone property without an owner's permission. Commissioners said this was a tool that was always available. They just never wanted it until now. That is a framework adopted. Now that becomes the process or the fee on everything that files later. So why does this matter? What didn't happen is a forecast. The continuance in the discussion item and the just adopted framework are the earliest, cheapest warning the system gives you. And they are exactly the items that once on a deadline reading throws away. The cost of catching them a few years ago ran into the thousands of dollars of billable hours, so we just didn't. The cost of catching them now is free and about 10 minutes per municipality per cycle. The cost of missing them is still the same. You hear the decision today, it's fine. What changed is the price of catching it. It used to be too expensive to bother, and that just isn't true. Signal 2 is the rule layer moving underneath you. Text amendments. Changes to the code that affect projects nobody has filed yet. 3 jurisdictions, 1 cycle, all on 1 slide. Indian Trail, North Carolina adopted an ordinance, a rewrite of its solid waste rules, the ones that govern service for townhomes. Unanimous approval, March 24. And in the same stretch, the town was renegotiating its hauler's contract with Waste Connections. Cedar Park, Texas approved median design and maintenance guidelines, an ordinance and a resolution together, new rules for planted street medians. Wake County rewrote the incentive policy we just discussed. Not one of these is a rezoning, and not one of these will show up in a zoning verification letter you pull on a deal closing next month. Now, let me take the one that sounds most trivial, because trivial is where the signal earns its keep. Indian Trail, the solid waste service change, sounds like much of a nothing. Put a 200-unit townhome project on top of it. A change to how solid waste gets serviced can force a site plan revision. It can mean a different hauler contract. Depending on how the amendment is written, it can pull a setback or screening review back open, approvals you had already cleared. One line in the text amendment, and your reopening work you thought was finished, especially since this kind of ordinance update likely isn't protected. Likely isn't protected under North Carolina's permit choice law. Here's the search versus record point again. You could, in theory, find that amendment passed. What you cannot do without reading it against your actual portfolio is know that this one line touches your project. That match amendment to portfolio is the reading. And structured intelligence surfaces these things when they happen, not the next time you meet with staff or a board. Code is a moving target. A verification letter is a snapshot. A snapshot was true the day it was taken, and that is precisely the problem. The work is reading each change against the portfolio you actually own. Signal 3 is category intelligence and is the one I want to slow down on because it is the best example of the difference between reading a vote you can find and a reasoning you cannot. Here's the easy version, the version anyone could assemble. Outside storage and vehicle storage requests got denied in 3 different metros this spring: Rockwall, Texas; San Antonio, Texas; Jacksonville, Florida. If I'd stopped there, you'd be right to say, so what? That's 3 Google searches. So let me show you the part that's not a search. Read the reasoning side by side, and the same sentence keeps surfacing. In Rockwall, a plan development asking for outside storage was denied 7-0 on April 14th, came back after council remand and was denied 7-0 again on April 28th. Same night, a second outdoor storage request also denied 7-0. 2 unanimous storage denials in one room in one evening. 250 miles south, San Antonio, Texas, May 5th. The applicant wanted to rezone a parcel of the interest of Foster Meadows neighborhood to legalize an oversized vehicle storage operation already running behind unpermitted fencing. Staff recommended denial. The commission denied it unanimously. The reasoning on the record was that the land use was too intense for a residential entrance. And here's the part that is not a category panic. That same evening, the same commission approved a different outside storage case on one that was fully screened and not sitting at a neighborhood doorstep. They did not deny the storage. They denied that storage there. Now, the current one, and this is why cadence matters. 9 days ago, June 16th, Jacksonville's Land Use and Zoning Committee took up 2 storage cases in one night. One was a plant nursery asking to rezone for storage of boats, RVs, semi-tractors, trucks on a road where the other side is single family. The planning department's words, off the record I read, were that the rezoning would not be appropriate or compatible with the surrounding development pattern, which is characterized primarily by residential uses. The second was a contractor seeking outside storage and overnight parking who wanted to cut the landscape buffer next to the homes to 0. The finding there, again, almost word for word, was that it would not be compatible with existing contiguous uses, given that the established pattern is residential. Read those 3 metros together, and you're not looking at 3 votes. You're looking at one sentence, incompatible with an established residential pattern, surfacing from staff and from boards in 3 states inside 90 days. That sentence is the signal. It is the thing that tells you the posture towards storage at the residential edge is hardening, and it is the thing that you cannot get from a vote tally because the tally does not carry the reason. One more piece of the Jacksonville record, because it is the most useful part. On the contractor case, the elected committee actually pushed back against its own staff. A member argued that the parcel was already zoned commercial, that a gas station could go there by right, so denying a smaller use contradicts the city's own plan. Staff said incompatible, politicians leaned the other way. That divergence is not a flaw in the signal, it is the signal getting more useful. Because now you do not just know the category is under pressure. You know exactly where the pressure is with professional planners and exactly where the relief might be with the elected body. And that tells the developer something specific about how to ask. So why does this matter? Denial or approval clusters precede category cooling and warming, and you read them in the reasoning before you see them in the totals. The vote is the search result. The reasoning, read across markets on a cadence, is the thing worth paying for. And the move when you catch one is never stop doing storage. It is to price it, raise the contingency, expect a longer hearing, rethink who is asking and where, or pick a submarket where the sub posture has not hardened. Signal 4 shows up on the deals that get approved, and it has the most direct dollar value consequence of the four. We tend to read a council vote as binary, approved or denied, but approved is not a price. It is a yes with a bill attached, and the bill is the condition stack. Let me show you that on one parcel in one town where you can see the whole thing. Roseville, North Carolina, in the triangle on South Main Street. The first time this site came to the board, it was an apartment project, 240 units, about 18 units to the acre, in a town center district, Scarborough Apartments. The board denied it in late 2024. The applicant came back, same parcel, but a different ask. Down to about 6 units an acre, 63 townhomes, plus a small commercial lot at the South Main Street frontage. And this time it was approved this past March. Now here's the part that matters, the part you cannot get just from the word approved. Read the conditions of the approval that came with the yes. Build the collector road. Build a 10-foot side path in that road's right of way, a greenway connection, a left turn lane onto South Main Street, perimeter fencing along the neighbors, a 180-day offer to let someone relocate at the historic home at 201 South Main Street before demolition, the commercial piece capped at 2 stories. That is the bill. That is what yes actually costs on that site. And that is the search versus record line one more time. You can find that REZ 25-05 was approved and the apartment case was denied. What you cannot find without reading the record is the price of the difference, the condition stack to turn a no into a yes, and what that tells you the going rate for an approval is in this town. That stack is the underwriting variable and is nowhere in just the vote. And the bill is not a fixed number. It's a going rate and it moves by project even inside town, one town. 2 Apex approvals, Apex, North Carolina, and the Triangle, about 15 weeks apart this year. In January, a small single-family parcel was rezoned and annexed to join the parcel next door. The whole bill was one condition, a roadway dedication consistent with the transportation plan. Light. Then in April, the Welch Homestead PUD, an 83-acre single-family and townhome project out of the New Hill portion of Apex's jurisdiction. That yes came with Holland Road widened to a 3-lane section with a bike lane and sidewalk, park and linear park dedication, a greenway, an affordable housing commitment, and the relocation of a historic corn crib. Same town, same year, 2 yeses. One cost of dedication, one cost of full offsite package. Normalize those side by side, and you know what an approval actually costs an Apex right now before you underwrite the next one. Now you might be thinking, Charlie, that's a silly comparison. A large parcel being developed by a national builder versus a small addition to an existing neighborhood. And I would argue that you're looking at it the wrong way. That small parcel could have been on the other side of Apex and encumbered with 6 or 7 figures worth of improvements in the forms of conditions. That's why this is worth checking in due diligence, because this is where most pro formas get destroyed. Underwrite the conditions, not the vote. The yes is the easy part to see. The price of the yes is the part you have to go find, and it is the underwriting variable that never appears in a verification letter. So before I tell you who needs to hear all this, let me put the 4 signals back together, because I just showed them to you one at a time on 4 slides, and that is not how they reach you in the real world. In the real world, they land on the same parcel a few weeks apart, and the whole value is in reading them together. So picture a deal. You're weighing a townhome site in a town like Roseville. Here's what the record hands you over 3 months without pulling a single verification letter. First, pipeline. A comparable townhome rezoning 2 miles away gets continued a second time. You already know what that means. Conditions are being negotiated off the public mic, and a decision and its terms are 60 to 90 days out. You're watching the board's current mood on your exact product before you have to spend $1. Second, code. In the same stretch, the town amends its solid waste and streetscape rules. Not a rezoning, not aimed at you, but it touches your site, but it touches how your site gets serviced and screened. So you check it against your plan now instead of discovering it just afterward. Third, category. The board's last few residential cases all turned on one recurring sentence about compatibility with the established pattern. That tells you the posture, it tells you how to ask, and it tells you how to present your application. And fourth, conditions. The last townhome, yes, in that town came with a collector road, a greenway, a turn lane. That is your going rate. You price that into the land offer rather than into a change order after the hearing. 4 alerts, about 3 months, 1 parcel. No single one of them is a deal. Read together, they are the most complete picture you can get of how this town is going to treat your project. And you have it before engineering and before your hard money date. That is the loop. It is not 4 findings. It is one continuous read on one deal. Now, I spent most of this talk on defense, on the cost of being surprised, and that is the honest center of it, because that surprise is what costs money. But I do not want you to leave thinking that this is only insurance, because it isn't. The same reading that keeps you from losing is the reading that gets you there first. Every one of the 4 signals flips. Pipeline flips. A competitor's project stuck in a string of continuances is not just their problem. It can mean a site is about to come back to market, or that the board is in a posture that favors your product over theirs. The stall you are watching is also your opening. Code flips. Not every amendment closes a door. Some open one. A density bonus, a parking reduction, a new overlay that lets you do something on a parcel you could not do last quarter. The developer who is reading the code changes is the one who files first under the new rule before everyone else even knew it changed. Category flips. Cooling has an inverse and is warming. A use that keeps getting approved with conditions that get lighter each time is a green light written in the record. And the submarket 2 towns over where the posture has not hardened yet is exactly where you go while it's still open. And conditions flip. Knowing the going rate before you make an offer means you bid the land right. You are the buyer who priced collector road into the contract, competing against the buyer who's going to find out at the hearing and blow up his own pro forma. If you're capital, no. If you're a builder, I mentioned the yes client right now who's tracking the Triangle County's UDO rewrite. The whole process, meeting by meeting, because they are watching the conversation as it happens. They are planning density, product, and schedule with the sellers around where that ordinance is actually heading. They are not bracing for a change. They are positioning for it. The opposite of finding out late is not safety. It's being first in line. Now, let me make this concrete for whoever you are on the call, because the same record means a different thing depending on your seat. If you're a developer, this is about your ins and outs. The radar catching a category cooling or warming or a code change before your hard money date is the difference between renegotiate or walking with your deposit intact or being locked in. Finding out at the hearing means the option is already gone. If you're a builder, this is lot delivery. A pattern of continuances on a project feeding your lots or a condition stack on a comparable approval tells you whether your lots come in on time and at what improved cost. That feeds your takedown schedule and your starts, the 2 things your year is built on. If you're capital, a lender or an equity partner, this is the one assumption your whole model rests on and almost never independently checks. The pro forma says this entitles in so many months at such and such conditions. The public record is the only third-party read on whether that assumption is true. Everything else in your due diligence has an outside verifier. The entitlement assumption usually does not. And if you're a consultant or an attorney, this is your billable edge. Walking into the room, already knowing the board's posture, the comparable conditions, and how each member leans is the difference between reacting and leading. That is not a nice to have. That is the thing the client is already paying you to know. One record, 4 different reasons to care. None of them are served by reading the record once on a deadline for one parcel. I've been saying the record and the reading in the abstract this whole time. So let me show you what this actually looks like on a Tuesday or Thursday morning in your inbox. These are real. Both of these landed this week. You set it up once, you pick them in a municipality, you tell us the terms or not, and just watch everything. And then you go back to work. The day a board action lands in our database, you get this in your inbox. Not a dashboard you have to remember to log into, a plain summary of the new activity on the things you are watching. The one on the left is Gwinnett County, June 23rd. 5 items in one meeting. And watch how much of this talk is sitting in a single email. Almost every single line ends with no board commissioners vote recorded. That is signal 1. These are not decisions yet. They are pipeline, and you are seeing them before the vote while there's still time to do something. Look at the first one, the Ashton Atlanta rezoning. An 83 lot subdivision, the planning department recommends approval with conditions, and the planning commission recommends denial. That is the exact staff versus split I showed you in Jacksonville, except here is in your inbox on a workday morning on a deal in your market. And look at the fourth one, Lake Carlton, the change of conditions to drop the minimum heated floor area on 63 townhome lots. That's signal 4, a condition stack being negotiated in real time on a project that's already approved. And notice the last item is a county insurance contract and Aflac's benefit awards. That one may not be for developers, but it's here labeled so you can see it in 2 seconds that it's not something relevant to you. That is the difference between this and reading the agenda yourself. You are not hunting. It came to you sorted with the reasoning attached. And on the right is the second one from Knightdale, North Carolina, delivered this morning. On its face, the smallest case imagined. Psychologist converting a house on Farmwell Road into a small office, asking the Board of Adjustment to let her off the hook for curb, gutter, and street trees along her frontage. The board said yes unanimously, with the caveat that right away along the frontage be dedicated, and that the parcel construct frontage improvements when either one of the adjoining properties are developed. You would read that headline if there were one and move on. But read what they actually wrote into the order. They clarified on the record that demolishing a structure is a change of use, and that any change of use is redevelopment that triggers the full roadway improvement. And they tied it to the lots next door, so your obligation can fire whenever your neighbor builds or deconstructs. Nobody rezoned anything. There was no headline, but if you were buying an infill site in Knightdale to scrape and rebuild, the cost of doing that just got defined by a 5-member board on a Tuesday on a case that had nothing to do with you. That is what a moving target looks like up close, and exactly the kind of thing a once a deadline reading throws away. That same summary is what powers self-serve reports, and over time is what can flow into your CRM, your own systems, even your own AI assistants. You do not adopt a new workflow. It shows up inside the one you already have. Here's the part I want you to take away, and is the honest one, because it's not a pitch or a tool. The radar is necessary, and it is not sufficient. Node.js can read every board in your markets and catch the signal, but a signal is not a decision. Somebody still has to read it against your actual pipeline, connect it to your actual deals, and decide what it means for you specifically, and report that back to the team on Monday. That is not a feature you can switch on. That is a job. It is the entitlements function, and is broken into pieces exactly the 4 things we just walked. Pipeline tracking, code monitoring, category intelligence, condition underwriting. Most shops do not have that role explicitly staffed. The work still happens informally by whoever has the bandwidth that week. It is the first thing to fall off when you get busy. And I'm not scolding anybody. I run small. I know exactly how it goes. But once you name it as a role, you get to decide what to do about it. Hire it, contract it. That's what the fractional version, that's what yes is for. Or grow it into yourself now that you can name the 4 jobs it is made of. And the reason it fits rather than being one more system to adopt is that the radar comes to where you already work. Today, that is a structured summary in your inbox the moment a board touches your terms, not a dashboard you have to remember to log into. Because it is one platform built on one record, the same intelligence powers the self-service reports, and it can feed the tools you already run, your CRM, your own systems, even your own AI assistants. You do not have to change your workflow to use it. It shows up inside the workflow you already have. So here's how you start. The radar is an ODS municipal monitoring. It is free. You pick one municipality, you tell it the terms, projects, or applicants you care about, and the day a board touches our database, you get a structured summary in your inbox. One municipality free, up to 5 for $20 a month. Your whole portfolio up to 20 for $50 a month. If you need more than 20, give me a call. When the radar flags something you are exposed to, then there's a self-serve report for the question you actually have. You run it yourself in about 10 minutes. Who is on the board? That's the council member profile, $79. And that's a look at what they care about, maybe some strategies on how to address their concerns. How did this approved project really get there? The project history report. That's $100. Takes a look at the approved conditions and then some things that were said but maybe not conditioned. How does this town vote on what I build? The market quick check, that's $149. What has actually been approved nearby and what conditions? That's the comp approval report for $199. Each one is a signal from this talk you can turn into a file you can pull on demand. No subscription, no call. And then there's the work. The moment you want a human read on what to do and not just a reconstruction of what happened, a quick check on a site, a full strategy report, fractional entitlement support, condition negotiation, that is yes, and that is a conversation. My email is on the screen. I will leave you with this. If you are the person in your shop who already reads agendas when you get a free hour, this talk was your job written down, and the radar just made your job faster. If you are the person who has been meaning to and never gets to it, set up one free municipality now and let it read for you. Either way, you know the cost of finding out late, and now you know it's avoidable. Thank you for your time.